Hey there, true believers. You're tuned into Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed. And welcome to episode 49 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I am your host. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, the ever-loving blue-eyed Shane Murray. How you doing tonight, Shane?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long day, but it's been all right. What about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Feeling a little bit re-energized after just weeks of being constantly busy. Got to take a little break today, which was nice. Sat down and read tonight's book and yeah, looking forward to getting into that. But before then, what have you been up to since we last convened?
Really not much. Backlog is 100% done.
Wow, I wish I could say the same, but what all have you read?
Not now when I say backlog, I mean only the like current issues because I had that giant stack. But it's gone. So and I didn't get to the shop today because I had to take Liam to the dentist. So I have no new books, current books in the house. What I re read is I finally got to read Superman, Spider-Man.
How'd you
Finished.
feel about that?
Some of it was okay, some of it was hit and miss. I don't know. The early part I liked, the first story, and then the rest of them were like, How did you feel about that?
I mean, I like the first story. I particularly was a fan of the Jimmy Olsen and Carnage backup, along with the Punisher and Power Girl team up. I enjoyed all of those. The rest, I mean, were okay. Not to take anything away from anyone, but those three hit the right spot for me.
The Lois Mary Jane one was my second favorite one in that, actually.
Okay.
Because they were just hilarious. Like first time, first time. Like just the playing off of each other about like always being captured and stuff. I thought that was hilarious. Um, what else did I catch up on? Finally caught up on Turtles, finally caught up on Sorcerer Supreme, finally caught up on Rogue, finally caught up on Magic and Colossus, Shredder. That's all I can remember off the top of my head. So then once I finished the backlog, that meant I get to dive back into the big old thick New Mutants omnibus. And I can thankfully say that I am on the back side of that. I think I'm at page 800 of like 1300.
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely in the back nine. Now, in my spare time now, once I get through my current stack, which is only about 5 books, like I think I've got Space Ghost and Flash Gordon and Red Coat and Planet of the Apes versus Fantastic Four, among other things at the moment. But I'll be hopping back into Stan and Jack Fantastic Four omnibuses. Of course, you know I sent you an image the other night, and it was a spoiler alert for my grim grumbling in like 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah, I don't know. I go to New Mutants. That's my once I finish those two omnibuses, then I'll be, I don't know. Maybe I got that Flash one last year at Hershey that's staring me in the face.
Was that the Mark Waid one?
It might be Mark Wade. I know it was
Who'd you buy it off of? That's what I should ask.
Greg.
You bought it off Greg LaRocque, then it's probably him and Mark Waid. Yeah. Unless it was the Messner Loebs omnibus, because he did work with Messner Loebs on that
I
title as
think it
well.
was Messner Loebs. I think it's the
Okay.
Messner Loebs omnibus.
Still good stuff. I enjoyed
Yeah.
William Messner Loeb's run on Flash and Wonder Woman, even though a lot of people crap on that run simply because he had her working at Taco Bell. But, I
Yeah.
thought that that was a fun little experiment.
I'm pretty sure it's the Messner Loebs Greg LaRocque book. I don't know. It stares me in the face because I want to read it, but I'm trying to not just give up on New Mutants and go read Flash.
Yeah, well, I mean, New Mutants is a really good time, so I would say don't just give up on it. You could always hop between the two.
My brain doesn't let me do that. We hop between the Fantastic Four things enough.
That's true, and we've had some mixed results with that, but we do it every week. Well, speaking of us doing things week to week, over the next couple weeks, as we close in on next week's episode 50, we've got some stuff going on. And for an announcement about that, make sure that you stick around after our issue coverage today to hear a little bit more about that. We got some really cool things in the works.
That we do.
But speaking of cool things, Shane, what are we covering today?
Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross.
Yes, we are. This is an excellent graphic novel by Alex Ross. You don't often see Alex Ross as a writer, but he took on the writing duties as well as the art duties on this book. And we got some interest in covering this after we covered Fantastic Four Volume 1, Number 51, back in episode 39. And particularly, I'd like to shout out Christopher John Fries over in the Fantastic Four Fancast Facebook group for recommending that we follow up on This Man, This Monster with this, which is kind of a sequel to it, wouldn't you say, Shane?
Yeah, it is kind of a sequel to it.
So, Fantastic Four Full Circle was published by Marvel in conjunction with Abrams Comic Arts in their Marvel Arts imprint. It is the first book in that imprint, and as far as I can tell so far, it is the only book in that imprint. We're supposed to be getting more. I'm not sure what, I'm not sure when, but the partnership is there. Cover dated for November of 2022. It was released on September 6th of 2022 with a cover price of $24.99. The creative team for today's issue, we have writer, penciler, and inker Alex Ross. Coloring duties were handled by Alex Ross and Josh Johnson. The letterer was Ariana Mayer. The assistant editor on the Marvel side was Martin Biro, and on the Abrams side was Jessica Goetz. The associate editor from Marvel was Annalise Bissa. The editors on the Marvel side was Tom Brevoort, and on the Abrams side was Charles Kochman, and Marvel editor-in-chief CB Cebulski. So normally, Shane, I would ask you if you would like to hear a synopsis via Marvel Unlimited, but this is not available on Marvel Unlimited, so I'm going to take our synopsis from the back cover of the book itself, if that's okay with you.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It's a rainy night in Manhattan, and not a creature is stirring except for Ben Grimm. When an intruder suddenly appears inside the Baxter Building, the Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, the Invisible Woman, Susan Storm Richards, the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, and the Thing, Ben Grimm, find themselves surrounded by a swarm of invading parasites. These carrion creatures composed of negative energy come to Earth using a human host as a delivery system. But for what purpose? And who is behind this untimely invasion? The Fantastic Four have no choice but to journey into the negative zone, an alien universe composed entirely of antimatter, risking not just their own lives, but the fate of the cosmos. Fantastic Four Full Circle is the first long form work written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Alex Ross, who revisits a classic Stan Lee and Jack Kirby story from the 1960s and introduces the storyline for a new generation of readers. With bold, vivid colors and his trademark visual storytelling, Ross takes Marvel's first team of superheroes to places only he can illustrate. Welcome to the Negative Zone, and introducing Marvel Arts, an exciting new graphic novel collaboration between Marvel Comics and Abrams Comic Arts, where nothing is impossible and anything can happen. Talk about hyping a reader up, Shane.
Yeah, for real. You know, it did bring up a thing because we did interview him. You know who would be an awesome Marvel Arts thing because of how he likes to paint his things right now? Ben.
Ben Harvey, absolutely. I think Ben Harvey would be an absolute fantastic candidate for this Marvel Arts imprint. And if you would like to listen to our interview with Ben Harvey, that was back in episode 29. Well, Shane, speaking of beautiful art and hyping up readers, you want to take us through Alex Ross's cover for this graphic novel?
Yeah, sure. So the slip cover of I guess this would be just the regular off the shelf cover. You have the regular one also. You don't have the 3000 one, do you?
No, I
And you
just have the regular one.
and you don't have the deluxe one because the deluxe one's different also.
The expanded edition, I
Yeah,
do not have that one either. Do you?
I do not. I have the regular one. I thought about buying the deluxe one.
We
That's
we
on my
will be
list.
talking about that a little bit later, honestly, when we get into our reprint section that we normally handle.
Um, so just going off this regular one. At the top, it starts with the Marvel Arts, and it has a bubble around it with like bubbling things fracturing off of it.
I believe
And you
that's
started,
referred to as the Kirby Crackle in the industry, Shane.
well, I guess you could call it the Kirby Crackle. I usually think of that only as in dynamic things. This is like I don't know. It looks like a cloud more than a Kirby Crackle. But yeah, we can call it the Kirby Crackle. We have the thing at the top, mouth agape, staring down, looking at the planet at the bottom. And from the thing down, it says Fantastic Four Full Circle. And at the top, it has like bands, kind of like a bullseye. You see a building at the top, which is probably supposed to be the Baxter Building. Then you go to the next circle, and it has some of the bugs that we'll get to inside the story. And then you get to Reed Richards and Sue. Reed stretched all the way out, circling down to the planet there at the bottom of Full Circle. Sue's got invisibility going on. Her arm is going through two of the circles. Above them, but underneath the bugs, you have some of that just negative zone space as you would see. Then the next circle down is kind of the villain of the story. And it does a good job of not giving too much away, but giving a little bit away by it being just black and greens. Then the next thing down is the target is asteroids bouncing off of the planet there. And Johnny kind of is out of frame. Like everyone else is going this way, and Johnny's going going down towards the planet. And then to the right of that planet, you have Ben's hand with a little circle that says "Bye, Alex Ross."
Yeah, there's a lot going on this cover. I commend you for the explanation that you were able to give of it, because I'm not entirely certain how well you can describe it. It's very chaotic, but it's also very beautiful.
It's striking.
So, when we started discussing doing this book initially, because it is 64 pages, I had brought up doing it as a foreshortened episode, but you talked me out of it, Shane. And we are actually dividing it into two parts. Today, we will be handling part one, which is roughly the first 30 or so pages within this book. Why did you decide that you wanted to push for this to be our regular panel by panel examination as opposed to a foreshortened episode?
I feel like we would be doing an injustice to how important this story is coming off of the other story that we did give the panel by panel treatment to. Because this is basically following suit from This Man, This Monster, roughly.
Yeah, only 60 years in between, but still,
I said
good time.
roughly.
60 years of real time, but what do you think? Probably about 7, 8 years in continuity.
Yeah, it seems to be about that because they bring up some like early FF stuff.
And when we opened the book, I know you removed the dust jacket from yours, but
I did not because you said we were going to do this, so I left it on for now.
okay. When we open up, we actually have a gatefold off of the dust cover, recounts the origin of the Fantastic Four, and we start seeing Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben in their astronaut uniforms standing in front of a launch site as the Marvel 1, their spacecraft, rockets into the air. And our narration is actually handled by Sue this time around. She says, our race to space wasn't to obtain power, but that is how it worked out. With that power came sacrifice, and none of us gave more than our friend and pilot, Ben Grimm, and I may have driven him to join us. Before our doomed flight, I called Ben a coward, all because he wanted more research about the cosmic rays that we might encounter. If I hadn't challenged his ego, Ben might have kept us from our fate. And of course, we see the four of them get bombarded with cosmic rays, and then the Marvel 1 crash and back to Earth. We just barely made a return landing with the automatic pilot taking over. We were changed forever. My brother Johnny burst into living flame. Reed expanded like rubber. Ben turned to stone. I became invisible. Only Ben's change was the permanent state. And we see Ben, initially mutated, engaging with Reed, who is trying to calm him down by wrapping him in his pliable body while Johnny, flamed on, soars through the air and Sue fades out of sight. We made a vow to use these powers to help others. We also needed to support one another, especially Ben. We owed him. And then we see that classic Val scenario where they all put their hands over one another's and promise to do good as the Fantastic Four. We moved into Reed's building, where he created fantastic tools to aid us in our adventures. Reed and I, Susan Storm Richards, would eventually marry and begin a family, but our core family is forever defined by the bonds of friendship. Our debt and determination make us the Fantastic Four. And then we get a very striking image of the Fantastic Four in their classic uniforms. Ben leading the charge in the foreground, Johnny following behind him, flamed on in the sky, while Reed stretches up and points towards whatever threat they're about to face. And he is flanked by Sue, who looks to be coming out of invisibility next to him. Really, really gorgeous and comprehensive image of the four right there.
I One of my favorite parts is this is that's one of the few times you get to see Alex's oils in this book because it's colored like a true comic.
It really
With
is.
it seems like an injustice to do to Alex Ross regular things, but it's still it's a beautiful book. One of my favorite things about this dust cover is the light blues and whites leaning into the Fantastic Four motif the whole way through the backstory there.
Yeah, I mean, it's their color scheme and he's blended it phenomenally. It's absolutely gorgeous. To say nothing of the interior cover where you get this blues and oranges with the four with Sue transparent and posed over top of Ben and Johnny with his hand flamed on and Reed looking onward from the right hand side. Just again going back, this isn't Alex's painting. It's just general color, but it is very striking. If this book is anything, it is pretty.
This book is so pretty. Spoiler alert, it was so hard to pick a favorite pan.
Yeah, I agree. Very much so. And go ahead and paint us a picture of the first page of our story here, Shane.
So we open up to a night, a rainy night, of course, and staring at the Baxter Building is this person or slash figure, I guess, that's cloaked in seaweed almost, how it just has like different weeds and tendrils just hanging all off of it. It looks like it was sitting in the bottom of a bay, and it's very interested in getting into the Baxter Building.
And we have a caption that reads, "Knock, knock." And we are taken inside the Baxter building to where Ben Grimm is looking inside the Fantastic Four's refrigerator. And he says, "Well, hello there. Come to Papa." And he begins to pull several ingredients from the fridge as he says, "Here we go. A full spread of ingredients for a perfect Dagwood sandwich." Now, Shane, I know you are a sandwich connoisseur. What's a Dagwood sandwich?
It is a multi-layer sandwich named after the comic strip character Dagwood Bumstead.
Of Blondie fame.
I did not know that's what they call a multi-stack sandwich until today.
Well, you know what they say. Education is important.
I'm used to hoagies, man. We eat hoagies.
Well, Ben uses his foot to kick backward and shut the refrigerator.
Slam.
What a better way to satisfy a midnight craving than all the fixins I can cram into my rock hard stomach. Here we go.
Creak.
Huh? And this noise startles Ben, who walks from the kitchen to poke his head around the corner of the living room, which is empty, as he says, "Hello? Sue? You sneaking around here?" Hmm. And he sits in the armchair and he kicks his feet up on the coffee table and goes to raise the sandwich to his mouth with an, "Ah, well. How's it going, big guy?" "Jeez!"
Crunch.
And who has startled Ben from behind?
Johnny actually startled him from behind.
"Johnny, you ignoramus. You made me smush my Dagwood." "Yeah, well, serves you right. Does Alicia know what you get up to in the middle of the night?" "Ain't none of your business, kiddin'."
Creak.
And Johnny and Ben whirl towards the window overlooking the city skyline. And what do they see is producing these noises?
That figure that we saw outside the Baxter Building on page one has now entered the building.
Whoa, who is that? And an alarm starts going off throughout the building, Shane.
Yep. Intruder alert. Intruder alert.
And we see Reed rush into the living room, pulling on a t-shirt. Says, "Ben, Johnny, what's going on? Who was that? That's just what I said. Boys, look out. He's moving forward, says Sue's disembodied voice, and Johnny responds, Sue, why are you? Ugh. Shane, why is Johnny reacting this way to Sue's disembodied voice?
Well, because he realizes that she's invisible because she is naked.
And Ben rushes forward and grabs this mystery figure and cradles it in his arms and says, I got him. It? And Reed stretches forward to examine him and says, he just seemed to collapse. Put him over here, Ben. The main lab should be able to help us understand how he breached our home. And Ben follows Reed to the lab, where Reed motions to an examination table and says, put him over here, Ben. The main lab should be able to help us understand how he breached our home. Now, to shed some light on the subject, Reed says as he pulls a lamp over to get a closer look at their intruder. And he begins to peel that seaweed like substance off of this person and reveals their face, to which Ben says, wait a minute. Hey, I know this guy. And who do we see here, Shane?
It is Ricardo Jones who captured the thing back in issue 51.
Reed. This is that guy who years ago masqueraded as me, remember? Who'd want to do that? I remember, Ben. This is what he really looked like? Yeah, he caught up with me when I was real down. I was feeling less a man and more a monster. And we see a flashback to that fateful night, and that iconic image of the thing standing in the rain.
Yeah, it's a great flashback image.
Where was I when this happened? You were off at college that day. It proved to be a pivotal day for us all. No kidding. Somehow this mook pulled me to his place and put a whammy on me. And I guess he used some kind of contraption to steal my looks. I don't get why he wanted to have my kisser. I guess he was looking to infiltrate this place. But what was he after? And we see Ricardo having drugged Ben and produces his changeling device to take on Ben's form and then make his way into the lab to confront Reed and Sue. Back in the present, Sue, now clad in a white robe, turns visible again and says, if I remember correctly, that day he nearly got Reed killed. Thank goodness you put something on. Not exactly, Susan. The events of that day are monumental, as it was my first journey through subspace and into the negative zone. My safety line had snapped, pulling who I thought was Ben into that void with me. Ben, I have to say, he certainly seemed like you, in manner as well as deed, because when he saw no way out for us both, he threw me back to our entrance point. When I last saw him, he was bound for the atmosphere of a world that we were being drawn toward, where we surely would have exploded in a matter-antimatter collision. I owe him my life. This stuff he's wrapped in looks exactly like the roots I got tangled up in when I was stuck in the negative zone. And when did that happen, Shane?
Back in Fantastic Four, I guess if you go with what do they call it, legacy numbering, 587 back in 2011.
Correct, when Johnny died, so to speak, in the negative zone. And Sue says, oh, I hate to think about what you went through then, Johnny. You all really shouldn't go there without me. Still, I feel pretty sore at this creep for posing as me. It's violating. That's understandable, old friend. Hey, look, he's moving. What's that coming out of his mouth? And we see in the final panel of this page what looks to be would you call that a tendril, Shane?
It looked like a piece of fabric almost. Or maybe
Whatever it is, it looks like it has kind of like a claw on the end of it, doesn't it?
yeah, I was gonna say almost like the tip of a bat wing.
Yeah, and it's just slowly emerging from Ricardo's mouth. And we turn the page to see what happened, Shane.
A bunch of these creatures randomly exploding out of Ricardo Jones's mouth with a big scream.
And everyone rears back in shock as Ben cries out, holy cow! And Reed says, get back, everyone! And the alarm begins to go off again, Shane.
Yep, intruder alert, intruder alert.
And Johnny flames on as Sue throws up a force field around herself and yells, Reed, are you okay? And Reed has made his way towards a control panel at the wall and says, Just hold on for a few seconds. I have something that might help. Johnny, contain the spread. I'm trying, boss man, says Johnny as he begins to fly a circle of flame around these creatures. It's like being a mobile bug zapper. And a number of these creatures start to latch their way on to Sue's force field. Reed, hurry with whatever you're doing. Sue, can you expand your force field? I think so, but let me try this. And what does Sue do, Shane?
She creates a bunch of tiny little force fields, collecting all of the creatures in their own bubble.
There we go. What are these things? You can't catch them all if they keep coming, says Johnny as he continues to fly rings around these things and blast them with flame bursts. That guy isn't running out. And we see Ricardo Jones, but it looks like his lower jaw and upper abdomen have more or less shattered like glass as these insectoid creatures continue to pour out of him. And Reed, with the contraption that he was fiddling about with, goes over Ricardo's body and begins to place this over the opening and says, Here, this nullifying force shield should seal the breach. About time. Should be closing up now. I'm trying to get all these things, but they're everywhere. Reed, I can't contain them all. And more of these creatures begin to cover Sue's force bubble. I'm losing visibility, and I know how that sounds coming from me. These things have spread throughout the whole floor. I imagine they'll move on to the other levels soon if they haven't already. They're trying to get in my mouth. And Reed, still struggling to seal the breach, yells, Command ZZ123, eliminate intruders. And what happens, Shane?
Zap! As all these things come out of the walls and zap all of the intruders in one fell swoop.
I think I would call those electrodes. That's uh, it
Yeah,
is
Tesla
basically like a
coils.
yeah, it is like a giant bug zapper though. Like I think it's impressive in what it does as these things fall and hit the ground.
Zis, plop, 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 plop. Zzz.
Is everyone okay? Yeah, I guess. I'll be right back, Sue says as she rushes away. Phew. I don't love having to blast away at things willy-nilly. Reed, I'm glad you made this place fireproof. And Johnny flames off, showing that he's burned away his pajamas and he's down to his skivvies at this point. This body was a shell containing a dimensional gateway. We need to find out where these things are coming from immediately. Can you both help with cleanup while I look into it? Later? What are we seeing here, Shane?
So we're seeing a bunch of the cleaner bots of the Baxter Building help clean up the mess, while Ben is sitting there with a vacuum trying to vacuum up stuff.
You say they're cleaner bots, but if you look at them, they're herpes, Shane.
They are herpes. They are.
Good to see our boy. And Reed enters the room. Well, I analyzed the creature's remains, and they have an energy signature that's familiar, just like the face they were delivered to us with. And who comes waltzing into the room in full uniform, Shane?
Oh, Sue does.
Susan, you're in. Look, Reed, I know you. I've contacted Agatha to come over and hold down the fort. I thank you, but you must want to be certain our. And Sue gives Reed a kiss and says, Reed, darling, they invaded our home, where our children live. Let's not waste any more time bringing the fight to them. All right, it's decided then. We're going to the place you all could have expected. We're going right into the heart of the negative zone. And we see the four in Reed's lab looking into the negative zone view screen. And what are they seeing here, Shane?
They're seeing this big pig monster just floating through space and a sun and several planets and tendrils out there and everything just black and dark colors and just all trying to fight for space in the negative zone.
Clearly, the creatures radiated the negative energy that makes up the antimatter dimension. I should be able to find a specific point of origin there to home in on. Ugh, again with this place. Don't worry, Ben. I'll be there to protect you. Ha ha. Do you think he or they got in through the portal you constructed? It doesn't look that way, Johnny. But they may have used our general doorway location to open a different breach into our dimension. I suspect the intrusion carries with it the earmarks of an obvious threat. The negative zone tyrant Annihilus. His cruel intentions focused on us are consistent with this attack. But given his control over the whole of his universe, which led in the past to a full fleet invasion of ours, it seems likely that he would have a much greater plan to try again. And Shane, can you describe Annihilus to us?
Annihilus is a purple and green alien from the negative zone. Has like this looks like a rebreather that's always on the bottom of his neck. He is always hungry and controls giant swarms of bugs.
Which are called
Oh my God. You think I'd remember because I was playing what's it called the other day?
the Annihilation Wave.
The Annihilation Wave, yeah.
And Reed continues, everyone, this could be more to take on than we're prepared for. Yeah, we're used to it. Well, I've got something new designed to help us penetrate the zone. We will need to switch uniforms. For new suits capable of nullifying the antimatter or matter energies we will encounter. Our whole bodies will be protected by the null force field. This is a mixture of vibranium woven with my own unstable molecule materials. It also has a technical capacity that will replace the harnesses we previously used to get home. If it still allows me to burn, then it works for me. Still shorts for me, huh? And we see these uniforms, Shane, which are in fact the modern Fantastic Four uniforms. Would you like to go ahead and describe them to us?
Yeah. So they are a darker blue than the ones that you usually see, or at least they seem to appear that way with the lighting in this. And then they still have the giant four in the front, but it's not the same like bright white four like you saw Sue a couple pages back have. It's more of like a futuristic four that kind of leans into blending into the uniform a little bit more, and black gloves and black boots.
And yeah, the big difference is that four logo, and that was actually created by Travis Charas in a 2013 sketchbook, and he gave Alex Ross permission to use it for this book, and then this carried over into Fantastic Four Volume 7, which Alex Ross famously, I think, did like the first 24 covers for. And the four entered the hangar, and they bypass all the Fantastic cars, which does not go unnoticed by Sue. Reed, wouldn't taking a vehicle of some sort to get around there work better? It may seem counterintuitive to go in unaided, but I have a theory about the zone which I'm testing. I believe our way back is insured. Also, our entranceway is protected from entry by anyone or anything other than us. Good. I know I, for one, don't want to get stuck in there again for what felt like forever. Prepare to leap. Now. And they leap into the portal, and what do we see here, Shane?
Them going through a bunch of Kirby crackle as they're going to enter the negative zone.
This is always weird. And they end up floating through red, followed by blue, and then purple, as Ben says, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Until finally they end up floating into the negative zone itself. And Reed says, welcome to the crossroads of infinity. Oh, lay off, will ya? I always want to throw up at this part. Ben, just close your eyes if you have to. The distortion area will pass soon enough. You love this stuff, don't you? I do. And Reed reaches out and wraps his pliable arm around Ben's waist to stop him from tumbling uncontrolled through space. And Ben says, I feel like a swaddled baby. Aren't you the pilot? Shouldn't you be enjoying this? Johnny says, having flamed on to control his movement. Only if I'm the one holding the stick. Hey, I see something coming into focus that looks different than what I'm used to. And as the world materializes around them, describe what we're seeing here.
That looks like a cave underground that they're in.
We're underground? Instead of the outer space we normally arrive in. It appears our coordinates directed us right inside of a structure, says Reed as he has turned his body into a parachute and drops Sue and Ben safely to the ground. And he begins to input key presses on his gloves, which brings up a holographic display, surprising Ben. Whoa, what's that contraption? This is the locating hardware from the suit. It's tracking the origin point of the invading swarm. I got that in my shorts, too? We're inside some kind of cave. There's structural design work in here as well. The signal is leading us this way. Johnny, you may want to remain close. And Johnny flames off as the four huddle together and begin moving downward the corridor. I have a feeling we're being watched. You ain't kidding, sister. This is straight out of them old creature features. And are they being watched, Shane?
They are absolutely being watched.
By what?
Part of that nihilist wave.
And they pass by some sort of craft that Reed remarks. That looks familiar. Is that supposed to be Dracula's roadster? And Reed suddenly throws out his arm in front of Sue and Ben and reaches out to grab Shawnee's shoulder from behind. Reed, what? Sue, turn us all invisible now. Please. We're right where I feared we'd wind up. And where is that, Shane?
Annihilus is like headquarters at dinner time.
And what is Annihilus eating here?
Oh, the same bugs that happened to penetrate the Baxter Building.
And are they happy about it?
No, it doesn't seem like be super excited about it. They're screaming with the skew, skew.
And Sue complies with Reed's wishes and turns them all invisible. And in hushed tones, Reed says, we're in a Nihilus inner compound. And clearly we've caught him in the middle of dinner. Geez, I didn't know he eats. Disgusting. And the four continue to rush down a corridor away from Annihilus, and Ben says, why are we sneaking out? I thought we was here to find him. Keep your voice down, Ben. Oops, sorry. And Sue drops the invisibility as Reed checks his tracker and says, the tracking signal doesn't point to him. The nega energy has another source located this way. We got something else coming at us from the zone besides old Annihilus? Did you forget Blastar? There's a whole universe of stuff here that wants to kill us. Johnny's right. An endless number of threats originate from this dimension, but this one seems to have more of a direct link back to us. And suddenly, what happens?
Some of those bugs that were attacking him at the Baxter Building show up and start attacking them right there as they're going down the corridor.
And Johnny begins to flame on as Ben yells, look, more of them things again. Susan? Got it. And Sue throws up a force field to keep them off as Johnny again begins to play human bug zapper, flying around and blasting these things with flame. Carve a path, Johnny. You got it, sis. Let's get to the bottom of this Ridley Scott nightmare. And in our next panel, what do we see?
We see a creepy human-looking face and a bunch of mad, looking like horror images all around him, staring.
And this being says, I don't know who that is, but will my nightmare do? And we see that the four have been basically cut off in their path by a wall of just these nightmarish creatures. And Ben says, Oy vey, what kind of horror show is this? Welcome, welcome. Step carefully, my darlings. And this wave of horrific creatures wraps themselves around the members of the Fantastic Four and begins to pull them into a chasm. Hey, this stuff is pulling me down. It's swarming all over us. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I knew you couldn't resist. Now accept your fate as all who touch Nega Life become part of us. Lights out. And our following page is completely black. And that is where we will leave our story for now. Shane, what are your thoughts on the first half of Fantastic Four Full Circle?
I really enjoyed the first half of this story. One, it's paced well, and two, it's just beautiful. What about yourself?
I will agree with you about the pacing. I will agree with you about how beautiful this is. I frankly was most impressed by Alex Ross's characterization of the Fantastic Four. I felt like this was just hands down one of the best, if not the best Fantastic Four story I've read in the past, I want to say 5 years right now. And that's not trying to take anything away from Ryan North or Dan Slaughter or whatnot, but this is like top tier. I really have no notes. It's beautiful to look at. It's wonderful to read. And it's like I'm visiting old friends. It's
Uh, yeah. My favorite part is that Stan would be rolling in his grave because Sue's useful and not just there to be a pretty face.
oh. Well, sir, would you like to move on to our Fantastic Four of the week for part one of this story? This is interesting to be doing right now because we're literally doing half of the story here. So,
Yeah, I know, and it's like a cliffhanger central. That's why I thought it was a great spot to cut it off at. Yeah, I'm ready. Do you go first?
I do go first this week. So, as far as my fantastic frame goes for part one, my favorite panel was actually in the gatefold of the dust jacket, panel 7. It's what I would consider to be a definitive image of the Fantastic Four by Alex Ross. You got the classic uniforms. You have an example of everyone's powers at play. You really can discern the basics of the entire team from this magnificent piece of artwork. Like, I want this on a t-shirt. I want this on a poster. I want this painted on my wall so it can be behind me while we're doing this show.
I'm
Like,
like, I need. Can I get this on an oil print, please?
yeah, exactly. Any way I can get this image, I want it. Like, it is just awesome. The fact that it's the final panel in a Fantastic Four origin recap is cool, but it is just it's the Fantastic Four, and it's probably, I would say, in my top 5 favorite Fantastic Four images ever.
That's a strong statement.
And I will stand behind it 100%.
Man, I'm here for it.
What about you? What did you pick for
Um,
your Fantastic frame?
the double page splash of the wall that's threatening them, the wall of horrors, because I loved the greens and pinks like radiating off of the four. It was a really good contrast of color versus what we've seen going through the rest of the book so far.
That is an amazing double page splash, and I do like how you bring up those colors, and it's all radiating off Johnny. Um, the colors in this book are like I often praise colorists like Bob Sharon and Jose Villarrubia. What Alex Ross and Josh Johnson did with this is absolutely incredible because it's like Johnny's flame reflects the color off of these negative zone creatures, and that affects the lighting that bounces back onto the rest of the team. It's just I can't think of a better coloring job. This is this is so pretty. I feel
This,
like we're just going to be gushing over the artwork.
yeah, dude, this is as close, like, as much as I talked about how Studio F stuff was so pretty for being like computer, this is what I really like right here. This is true inks, true coloring, and it's invoking the shades all the way down to like where at the bottom of Ben's leg there, you see that there's the rock that's still there. On the backside of Sue, you see the blue. Like this panel, this double page splash is perfection of coloring.
Wholeheartedly agree. Well, here's going to be probably what I think would be the most difficult question of the entire thing, or at least it was for me. What was your grin grumbling for this week?
So it was for me also, and this is like a sticking point. So it's back in the backstory. So when Reed brings up about the rope breaking and Ben being pulled into the void, the rope broke and then Ricardo Jones actually chased the rope and then jumped on the rope and then flew into there. It didn't just break and take him in. And that was like my one thing. I was like, it's so hard to find something, and I was like, but I know that that's not exactly how it. I know that it didn't break and just rip him in. I know that there was something else. So I even went back. I even did scientific research and went back to that issue and was like, I know I'm right that that's wrong.
That is fair. I kind of looked at that as us dealing with an unreliable narrator because let's face it, Reed was in the zone, right? He didn't
Yeah,
see the events go down. Sue did kind of, but I feel like the only person who really saw the events that we, the readers, saw in that moment was Ricardo. So, I mean, I feel like they still have the opportunity to be operating under that false assumption, but I get why it bothered you.
yeah. It's so hard to nitpick this book. That was my one thing. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with this. I couldn't just write perfect.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that was the same corner that I found myself in too, trust me. So.
So what was yours that we can be like, ah?
So my grumbling for this week is the fact that Alex Ross hasn't had a gig as the regular writer on Fantastic Four yet. Otherwise, no notes. He has got
Dude.
the characterization down so well. I mean, and it helps, I suppose, that this is a callback, but like when it comes down to it, Alex Ross is known more for his artwork than his writing. You don't see his writing so much as you see his artwork. And the stuff he wrote, I'd have to look more into it. I'm not sure if it was just him helping with plots or whatnot, or him actually writing stuff. But this, regardless, is awesome. And I would love to, and I'm sure it would cut into the bread and butter of him doing covers, but I would love to see him just straight up have a run with the Fantastic Four.
That would be amazing. I mean, I'm here for it. Never gonna probably see it, but I'd be here for it. All right,
Yeah.
so that leads us to our next one, bud. Cosmic Cliffhanger.
So my cosmic cliffhanger was page 13, panel 5, which is where they are examining that vessel that looks like Ricardo Jones and notice that there is something crawling out of his mouth. Now, Shane, full disclosure, I hate bugs. I'm not an insect guy. They creep me out. However, that being said, I love the movie Creepshow, which was directed by George A. Romero, written by Stephen King. And basically, it was like a movie version of Tales of the Crypt. It was a movie set up like a horror comic from like the 1950s. The final story in that movie is called They're Creeping Up on You, and it stars E.G. Marshall as like this billionaire who lives in like a clean room apartment, and he gets invaded by cockroaches. And I love it because I hate insects, but it utilizes my fear specifically to an entertaining effect. So when I saw this panel, I knew exactly where it was going. And my stomach contorted just thinking about it, but I couldn't wait to turn the page anyway. It was masterfully done.
I was trying to not go with the last page also, so I'm glad you found something else. Not the one I went with though. I did look at it though.
What did you go with?
I went with I don't know what page number it is, but it is the panel right after they see the rocket ship where Reed tells Sue to turn them all invisible now, please.
Yeah, that is a sense of urgency that really lends to that cliffhanger on that page. Totally get that. Yep.
And then you flip to the next page and you're like, oh no, it's a nihilist. Oh snap.
And he's eating some bugs.
Yeah. So like the last thing you want to run into, a nihilist, maybe Galactus. They're like one and two. Pick one. Neither one of them is going to be good for you usually.
Good choice. Good choice. Both of them involve bugs. This whole story involves bugs. So,
Yeah.
well, that brings us to picking our most fantastic players for the week. Shane, who was your MFP?
So I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm changing it again. I'm gonna go with Sue.
Okay.
She bubbled up all of the, well, not all of them, but a lot of the bugs so that Reed can get a time to set off that perimeter,
The bug
whatever,
zapper.
the
The bug
bug
zapper.
zapper. Turns them invisible so they don't get eaten by Nihilus. Protects them when they get attacked in the hallway leading up to running into the wall. Sue just kept protecting them all the time. You could give a Johnny a thing because he kept being like a bug zapper, but I feel like Sue, because Johnny he only was protecting himself. Like Sue put the rest of the team in bubbles to keep trying to help things work out. So Sue, honorable mention Reed, almost went with Reed for the bug zapper.
Okay.
What was yours, bud?
So, mine, I went with the Herbies. Because look at them go on page 19 in panel one. Like they're cleaning so well, you'd never know there was a bug infestation once their work's done. And trust me, that place was a mess. You saw it, I saw it. Like, yeah, they did amazing work. So shout out to the Herbies.
Sure.
This is one of those things where I felt like I needed to pick the Herbies now because I think when we come back and do part two, we'll end up picking our MFPs for the story overall.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
And true believers, if you would like to experience this story for yourself, not only do we have the normal hardcover that both me and Shane are working out of tonight, they have also, as Shane mentioned earlier, released the Fantastic Four Full Circle Expanded Edition hardcover, which this is an impressive collection because it includes three reprintings of this story. You get a version of it that's just the pencils, you get a version of it that's the inks, and then you get the full completed color version. Plus, you also get Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 51, This Man, This Monster, reprinted in there. And the scans the reprint was done from are from the original comic, not the digital edition. And then you also get all 24 of the Alex Ross Volume 7 covers included in that collection as well. If you're an Alex Ross fan, if you're a Jack Kirby fan, this is a must have. So that came out in October of 2024. You can still find that at your local comic book store or, even bookstores.
Yeah, that deluxe one's on my list. I think I need to have it for the shelf.
So Shane, we had talked about at the top of the episode how we have some announcements a week. Next week is our 50th episode. And because of that short hiatus we took back in September, it's more or less our 1 year anniversary episode. So, just a reminder to everyone that in the Facebook group, we have put up a poll asking you to vote for your favorite alternate member of the Fantastic Four. As always, your feedback is important to us. We would highly appreciate if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. And speaking of that, we have decided that as a little bit of an incentive, since we have not gotten one of those, we are going to have a contest. Isn't that right, Shane?
Yeah, we are gonna have a little Connie test.
So, in order to enter, what you need to do is you need to go over to Apple Podcasts and you need to leave us a 5-star review. And then what I would recommend doing is after you do that, send me an email letting me know that you did and what name Apple generated to put that 5-star review under. And you will be entered to win a copy of the Marvel Premiere Collection of Solve Everything and your copy of the Fantastic Four Full Circle graphic novel. So, again, the rules of that contest are go to Apple Podcasts, write a 5-star review for the Fantastic Four Fancast, and then email us at fan4fancast@gmail.com, FAN, the number 4, FANCAST at gmail.com, letting us know what name Apple generated for that review so we can go back and double check it, and you will be entered to win those 2 books. We'll be running that contest over the next 4 weeks. While it won't earn you a place in the contest, you can also leave a comment or a review on Spotify. As always, we ask you subscribe to us on your preferred listening platform so we show up in your feed each and every week. If you're not subscribed yet, why not? You're already here. You're already listening to it. It just makes things that much easier for you. And also, you can follow us on Instagram at fan4fancast. Again, that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. Shane, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the true believers on Fantastic Four Full Circle this week?
If you don't have this and you're doing yourself a disservice by not at least owning the regular copy on your shelf somewhere, you can, if you're like a fancy person and have a coffee table, you can buy this and throw it on their coffee table because someone's going to come up and be like, that doesn't look like comic art and pick it up. And like, you might even make a friend that is like a art snob realize that comics are pretty.
And that's the thing. The story is so good and the art is so beautiful that we've decided that, like I said, one lucky listener who leaves us a 5-star review, we're going to give you a copy of it. And really, especially this story. I know we say this, or at least Shane says this every week, but this one is definitely one where we cannot do the art justice by the way we describe it. You have to be able to see what's going on in the actual book to fully appreciate this story.
I don't even think looking at it digitally, like I'm glad that they don't put this in unlimited because it would do a disservice if someone's reading it on a little tiny phone.
Absolutely agree with you there. Well, Shane, I'm really glad that you convinced me to do this panel by panel and stuff foreshortened. I think you were absolutely right with how we needed to handle it, and I've highly enjoyed the experience so far. I can't wait until we come back to this
Oh, part
story.
two is gonna be sick.
Yeah, and for those of you who are curious when part two is going to drop, we currently have it planned for June 10th in episode 53. But yeah, Shane, as always, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to you joining me again for episode 50 next week.
Yeah, big old 5-0.
And we hope you too will join us, true believers. For Shane Murray, I'm Nate Charles. Until then, stay fantastic.